now what to do. But we've got to do something. So Right Thinking Foundation, after 6 years of being in prisons and trying to give the love of Jesus to people so that everyone knows they're loved and that they can forget the past, they can be forgiven, forgive themselves, we can forgive them, and they can move on, change their ways and decide to do better and have advocates, people help them. That's what it takes. But what I'm just really trying to focus on here is that it's time that we figure out this problem and change it. And we know that the very best way to fight recidivism is to work with the children so that they never go in the first place. You know, I'm a martial arts master. I've been teaching martial arts for 45 or 6 years, whatever. And when I teach self-defense, it's pretty simple. What's the very best self-defense in any situation? Don't be there. Think about it. You're not going to get into a bad situation if you're not there. So what I'm trying to say is let's get to the children and give them a good life before they get out into the world and do things that they shouldn't be doing. So the two sides of the we conversation that I want to bring up today is the returning citizen that needs to come out and start his life over and be able to succeed, become a productive, contributing member of society, and those of us that are on the outside that they're coming home to. Now, with that said, I'd like to give you just a couple examples of some inmates that I've had the pleasure to know and work with over the years. And one was a 22-year-old young lady, and she was returning to a rural community in southwestern Virginia. And she was absolutely petrified that she was going to be getting out in about 3 months, and that she was absolutely scared to death because it was a small community, less than 20-some thousand people, and all of the bad elements that she was involved in were still there, that she was going to be going back to that community. And so she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to break the cycle and that she wouldn't be able to succeed and that she'd fall back into some of the things that she had done that caused her to be incarcerated. So I worked with her and taught her a whole lot about handling money and finances and working and savings and things of that nature, which are my little part, like I said. Another example that I want to give you of what they come back to, I had a gentleman that I've spoken to about once or twice before, and he was in on a 20-year sentence. He got out in 14 years. He was in Richmond, and he went to a halfway house, and he got employed in 3 weeks. That's like the world's record for a person that's coming out of prison that's been with nobody on the outside. He got out, and he got a job in 3 weeks. It's critical to get a job. And I asked him if he could share with me so that I could pass it on to others and not just be my own theories, but a real story of someone. I asked him to share with me, well, what's the secret that you were able to do that? And he said, Steve, you've got to tell them that when they get out, the life that they knew before they went in is completely over, and that they have to be willing to start at the bottom all over again and then work their way back up. Well, that's exactly what it is, but that's a very, very difficult thing. Put yourself in the shoes of a person that's been incarcerated for 4, 5, 6, 10 years, whatever the time frame. You come back out, you've been separated from society for a period of time. Perhaps you've really got your life together. You've had some wonderful time to learn who you really are and make up your mind that you're not going to be like that anymore, whatever you did wrong, and that you're going to come out and you're going to do good. But when you come out, you get rejected. The national statistic that I learned along the way was that if a person gets out of prison and in the first 2 months they get rejected 7 times from employment, they're going to go back to something illegal, what they already knew how to do. We've got to stop that. So what I've put together here is, in Right Thinking, after close to 400 times, working inside prisons and in meetings with Department of Corrections officials and so forth, I finally think that it was given to me a vision that when the Lord put me in this assignment in the very first place to go in and try to help people have a better life, I accepted it, and I knew it was what I'm supposed to be doing. But it finally got focused, and as I travel around and I deliver the message that I told you I give of love, encouragement, hope, and provide tools, I want to do more. And what I finally came up with was, if we, Right Thinking Foundation with its team, its supporters, the technology that we have that connects software from Dave Richards' company, Concursive, which is international software that's like a full Facebook social media platform where we can have private space to where we can have people come in and we can build online communities that we can take a returning citizen and create an online community where it's him and maybe me or maybe some other volunteer that wants to be working with him also. And then we can go out into the community and help to bring other people into this community that we're creating for him. So I want to talk about that for a second here. What I'm trying to say is this. If you, and I've asked this question about 50 times in the last month and a half or two, what group of people, what organization, what agency is already in all communities that have a very specific mission that has been announced forever, that they want to help other people have a better life and love one another properly? Churches. So that's the number one organization that Right Thinking Foundation is going to connect with to help build communities for returning citizens. So here's the main line here. When a returning citizen gets out of prison, is released, proverbially given a bus ticket and $20 bill, many returning citizens, they don't have anything at all to come home to. Many of them don't even have families there that ever want to see them or they're going to be supportive. They're alone. And it's the most critical time for a returning citizen, whether they're going to succeed or fail, when they initially first get out of prison. So if we can help a person succeed when they get out by bringing them back into the community in a very loving, positive way, give them, provide advocates and support, then the chance that they will succeed is so much greater. It's so much better for them if when they come out, instead of taking that risk like the young lady that I told you about in Western Virginia, that she comes out and is thrown right back into a community of the same bad elements that she was part of before she went in. If we can help a person be brought into some good support network, have a good positive support network, there's a good chance that they might not recidivate, that they'll end up having a good, stable reemergence from being in prison. So what Right Thinking wants to do and has the technology to do is, as I go around the country and I go into prisons and I invite people to come hear the radio program and then go to the website, rightthink.org, and enroll, we can then be there for them. We can form a support network. And what I want to do is I'm working on going around the country and starting off with the churches, but let me point this out. This is not just a Christian program. This is for everybody. One of my theme songs that I've been using for the whole 6 years is the Young Bloods get together. Come on, people, smile at your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. Whether a person's a Christian in any denomination, Baptist, Episcopal, Catholic, whatever, a Jew, a Muslim, it doesn't matter. When a person gets out, I want to have endorsements from national level of all of the different religious affiliations, so that when they get out and we do when we welcome them into right thinking, glad you found your way to right thinking, we're there for you, we want to help you succeed. When they're going back to whatever city in the country, say the person's going back to Kansas City, Missouri, for the lack of a better word or choice, I will contact some churches that I'll ask them what your affiliation is if you have one. And if they have a preference, then then I'll have the national organization tell me who a good local contact is, and we will contact that church organization and see if they want to take the opportunity. And this is what I'm really trying to say here. I want to give churches the opportunity to do what they say they want to do in the first place, which is to spread the gospel of the Lord and love people. That's what it is. And remember this, churches are people, not buildings. And so if I can connect and get a local contact, this is the key to it. I want to help that person. I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. It doesn't matter. And I can have a volunteer in Green Bay, Wisconsin that's going to be trained in the right thinking way to help mentor and support someone. And they can be in this person's support group. And we can get a contact in Kansas City that wants to love this person, wants to bring them in to the community, make them feel welcome. And if they can do that, and this person gets out of prison, and he's willing to connect with this person that's from this church that wants to be there to help them, then that person has an advocate. That person has someone that is local that might be able to help them with transportation, provide a meal at the church, give them from the storehouse at the church, food. The point is this. Churches are there for bringing people into fellowship and a sense of community. But let me caution this. Not all churches are doing that. And this is not an expose on whether churches are good or bad. All churches can be doing the right thing. But if I were to take a returning citizen with me to church, and this person has just gotten out of prison, and I invite them to go to church with me, and we go into the church, and everybody knows me, looks at me, and sees that I've brought this person that's an outsider to them into this church. Well, the person that I'm with, the returning citizen, if he doesn't feel welcomed, if he feels like he's not being brought into a sense of the community, if he's not being loved on, if he feels like, wow, this is like Steve's the big brother from the Boy Scouts here, and I'm his project. If the person feels like a project, they will never go back to that church again. And so I've been telling people at different churches lately, what we really ought to do is if it's a church with a congregation of 300 people, we ought to get about 30 volunteers and let them sit anywhere at all throughout the 300 seats. And when Steve brings in a returning citizen that wants to be brought back into society, that wants to get away from the old life that he had, and then I say to him, we won't give him a name, we'll say, Mr. Returning Citizen, I've got to go teach Sunday school class, but go sit anywhere you want. You're gonna be loved. You're gonna be welcomed. And for me to know that when I drop him off into that service, that no matter where he sits, somebody right around where he's sitting is going to introduce themselves to him, say, hey, glad you could come today. My name's Steve. What's your name? And just welcome them. If a person going to any kind of a church is not welcomed like that, if they're felt like if they're treated like an outsider, and people just aren't comfortable with this thing, it's not going to do any good for him to go there. So that's what we're trying to create here in Right Thinking with this program. So let me give you a little outline. We already have the software where we can build support networks online. And so Steve will go around and socialize this to prisons. And as I go to each state and I go to a prison and do my presentation, I will have direct contacts with the headquarters of the Department of Corrections, and the Department of Corrections for that state will start putting into the resource kit as they get out of prison that Right Thinking Foundation is out there. So it'll be statewide, where I only go to one prison or so in a state maybe, but the whole state Department of Corrections will have Right Thinking Foundation's information packet available so that everyone in the Department of Corrections program will know about Right Thinking. So they come out, they contact Right Thinking, they join, we contact them, we give them a welcome kit, thanking them for giving us the opportunity to help them. And then we kind of do an intake on a very positive basis, and we have a volunteer